Chosen one, congratulations. You will never have to experience this again. There's a moment in every journey where the storm finally ends. Not because you outran it, not because you avoided it, but because you endured it long enough for it to break open into light. Chosen one, that moment is now. After all that you have walked through, after all the nights you thought would never end, after all the times you questioned whether you would ever feel peace again, here it is. Not only have you survived what others would have surrendered to, but now, by God's divine decree, you will never have to experience that again. Stay with this video until the very end, because something is being awakened in your spirit that will never be shut down again. And in the comments, write your warmest wishes and write the number 99 as a sign that your wishes are being activated right now. This is your chapter of wish fulfillment. The energetic wave that ripples into reality when hearts align and words become power. Write what your heart hopes for. Speak light into this moment. The universe is listening. And more importantly, God has already moved. Now, chosen one, press the hype button under the video and like this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's begin. What was once familiar pain has been completely disrupted. There are some chapters that God doesn't just close, He erases. And you are living in the aftermath of that divine eraser. The weight you used to carry no longer belongs to you. The fear that used to speak to you now echoes in an empty space where you no longer live. The doors that once locked you in are not just open, they've vanished. Your exit was not just from a situation, it was from a former version of yourself. You've exited a cycle, chosen one, and this time you're not going back. There was a divine lesson in the hardship. It was never punishment, it was a preparation. The pain you experienced wasn't because you were weak, it was allowed because you were stronger than you knew. God used that fire to refine your spirit, not destroy it. You didn't break, you awakened. And now that you've seen who you are in the storm, you'll never again fall for the illusion of limitation. That test you passed in secret has promoted you in the spirit realm. Heaven saw what you withstood, and because of that, something irreversible has shifted. You cried in places where no one saw. You prayed for release when your voice trembled. You kept walking when you didn't have strength. And through it all, God was watching, not from a distance, but right beside you, holding you, strengthening you, sustaining you when you couldn't explain your pain. And now, finally, He is announcing something powerful over your life. This will not touch you again. The attack is over. The torment is silenced. The season is finished. Congratulations, chosen one. You have stepped into the promise. The world might not understand what you carried. They didn't see the invisible battles. They didn't hear the spiritual warfare raging inside your mind. But God did. And God decided that enough was enough. You've reached the edge of the old season and stepped into the new one with authority. That's why things feel lighter. That's why you're sensing a shift. That's why the air around you feels different. It's not your imagination. It's confirmation. You're not in the same place anymore. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, your environment has shifted. Every time you almost gave up, something pulled you back from the edge. That wasn't coincidence. That was divine orchestration. There are angels who were assigned to you during that season, warriors who stood between you and complete collapse. And now those same angels are celebrating your freedom. Because you didn't just make it through. You rose, you endured, you passed through the fire and came out with wisdom, vision, and strength that no one can take from you. That strength is permanent. That wisdom is sealed. That victory is eternal. God never forgot you. He watched every sleepless night, every suppressed tear, every unspoken fear. He knew the exact moment the lesson was complete. He knew when your soul had absorbed everything it needed, and he didn't delay your deliverance. He timed it perfectly. And now, what you endured for years, you'll never have to face again. It wasn't random, it was part of your spiritual legacy. And now that the final piece has clicked into place, the chains have broken in full. You didn't need revenge, you needed restoration. And God is providing it abundantly and without apology. The ones who left you in pain will see you rise without bitterness. The places that rejected you will soon regret it. But you won't turn around. You're not meant to return to where you were once wounded. You're meant to rise beyond it. God is not taking you in circles. He's taking you forward. He's taking you higher. He's taking you into the kind of peace that no past can disturb. This moment is more than just emotional relief. It is spiritual resurrection. What was dormant is alive again. What was shut is open. What was delayed is arriving. The doors that were once closed to you are now swinging wide without resistance, because this time they are not man-made doors. They are divinely constructed passages that were prepared for the version of you that could handle them. And now that you've become that version, you walk in as the rightful heir, not the wandering seeker. There's a powerful finality to this kind of breakthrough. It doesn't just elevate your path, it rewrites your history. The old narrative no longer defines you. The past no longer limits you. The labels no longer cling. The confusion has cleared. And where there once was a fog of doubt, now there is clarity. Where there once was fear, now there is fire. Where there once was silence, now there is sound. Divine sound, announcing your victory in realms beyond the physical. This is not just a good moment. This is a prophetic one. This is where your lineage shifts. This is where the story changes. This is where cycles of pain are permanently broken. You didn't just come out of something, you came into something. A divine inheritance that was waiting for your maturity, your growth, your revelation. And now that it's here, you'll look back on what once hurt you and smile. Not because it was easy, but because it couldn't win. What you went through was real. But what you've stepped into is even more real. It is more permanent, it is more powerful, and it will never be undone. The heavens have confirmed it. God has spoken it, and your soul knows it. That is why you feel the release in your chest. That is why your thoughts feel freer. That is why the past doesn't hold the same sting. You've been delivered. You've been redeemed, and you will never have to experience that again. You didn't imagine the pain. You didn't exaggerate the weight. What you carried was heavy, and what you felt was real. But the shift now occurring in your life is just as real. Only this time it is rooted in divine release, not suffering. Chosen one. What God allowed for a season has now expired by divine authority. That ache in your chest that used to wake you up at night, it's gone. That lingering dread that used to shadow your joy, it has lifted. That invisible burden that made every step feel harder than it should, it no longer has permission to stay. You have passed through the kind of internal battle that few ever survive with their spirit intact. But yours remained whole because it was held by holy hands. And now those hands have set something new in motion. Your life is no longer revolving around the residue of trauma. The energy that once surrounded you with despair is now being replaced with something sacred, something weightless yet powerful, something eternal. You are breathing in a new spiritual atmosphere, and you are being recognized in realms that once ignored you. Everything you endured shaped you into a vessel capable of holding what is now being released. This is why you feel different. This is why your eyes are starting to see beauty again. This is why your chest doesn't feel as tight when you wake up. Something inside you has turned, something eternal, something irreversible. God didn't just pull you out. He rebuilt you while you were still surrounded. And now you carry something so refined, so radiant that even the shadows can no longer recognize you. The cycle has been broken, and you won't feel that heaviness again. What tried to return to your life will find no doorway, no access, no agreement. God has sealed the exit. You are not returning to that former version of yourself. Not mentally, not emotionally, not spiritually. That old mindset has died. That old identity has dissolved. You have ascended. You have transcended the need to prove yourself. You are no longer looking for closure. You are no longer trying to fix what was never yours to fix. You've let go. And that release has unlocked something new in the heavenlies. The voice of the enemy that used to torment you has lost its echo. The memories that once paralyzed you now serve as quiet witnesses to your rise. They hold no sting. They cannot stop you. What once felt like a curse has now become confirmation. Because if you survive that, nothing else can take you down. You didn't just overcome, you outgrew, and the space you're walking into now fits the new you perfectly. The alignment is divine. The timing is exact. The atmosphere is holy. God didn't allow you to come this far just to survive. He brought you here to be reborn. This is the era where you walk in confidence, not confusion. Where you embrace your identity, not question it. Where you receive, not chase. There's a supernatural grace resting on you now. It covers you like a shield, guides you like a compass, and fuels you like a fire. You no longer need to beg for understanding. You have divine insight. You no longer need to explain yourself. You have been validated by God. This release wasn't random, it was divine surgery. God removed the remnants of what no longer belonged. He uprooted the wounds, cut off the chains, and cleansed the foundation. What remains is not just the healed version of you. It's the chosen version of you, the appointed, the ready, the anointed. And now that you are standing on renewed ground, you will begin to notice how everything around you starts to respond differently. People will treat you with more respect. Circumstances will unfold with more ease. Doors will open faster and peace will last longer. You are no longer bound to the old gravitational pull of past pain. You are rising above it, not in pride, but in purpose. What once drained you now repels itself from your field. What once wounded you no longer finds entry. What once had the power to distract you can't even locate your frequency. That is what true deliverance feels like. Not a loud announcement, but a quiet shift that changes everything. You will never have to walk through that kind of loneliness again. That specific kind of isolation, the one that left you doubting your own worth, your own presence, your own purpose, it has been erased. God saw it. He saw how you tried to carry yourself with grace while your soul was collapsing on the inside. He saw how you kept showing up when you wanted to disappear. He saw how you loved others when you needed love yourself. And because of that faithfulness, He has decided this will not return to you. No more panic, no more pretending, no more pressure to hold up what God never asked you to carry. That chapter is done. The performance is over. You are being led into authenticity, into alignment, into rest. And as you rest, what's truly yours will start finding you. You won't have to force it. You won't have to fake it. You won't have to negotiate your worth for it. It will recognize you and it will be easy to receive because you are finally walking in truth. This transformation is not just personal, it is generational. You have broken a cycle that your bloodline has been trapped in for generations. The kind of pain that used to transfer itself through silence, through shame, through fear, it stops with you. The kind of lack that was normalized now becomes foreign. The kind of trauma that was accepted now becomes exposed and removed. Your healing is not small. It is historic. And heaven is rejoicing. You have walked out of a season that was meant to you. But instead of collapsing, you soared. Instead of hiding, you revealed. Instead of becoming bitter, you became better. You rewrote your future by standing still when everything inside you said, run. That is power. That is purpose. That is prophetic. And now, that same power that carried you through is ushering you into something untouched, unbroken, and unimaginable. The silence you once feared has become your sanctuary. The waiting you once hated has become your womb of rebirth. The ending you thought would destroy you has introduced you to a divine beginning. This isn't the end. It's not even the middle. It's the launch, the takeoff, the lift into a version of life that no longer mirrors the pain of your past. You will walk with a new gait. You will speak with a new sound. You will look at the world through healed eyes, and what you will see will be more beautiful than anything you imagined during your hardest nights. This is the reward of endurance. This is the harvest of tears. This is the evidence that you were never forgotten. You were just being perfected. And now that you are ready, the blessings that were once delayed are being released with urgency. You are now living in a divine afterglow. The storm is behind you and not just temporarily. The patterns that once led you into those storms have been dismantled. The spiritual agreements that once gave pain permission to stay have been revoked. You are not simply in a new chapter, chosen one. You are in a new book authored by the hand of God, written in the ink of breakthrough, and bound by the promise that you will never have to live that pain again. The internal battles have ceased because the internal war has been won, not through striving, but through surrender. You didn't lose yourself to become someone new. You discovered who you were underneath the weight of survival. The old identity, the one shaped by shame, fear, and false expectations, has been buried. And what has emerged is something sacred, someone sovereign. You, the real you, the you that God always saw, even when you didn't. And now everything you touch will feel different. Your energy has shifted. Your aura has expanded. You are carrying peace, and it's not fragile. It's not the kind of peace that waits for things to go right. It's the kind of peace that comes from knowing you're already aligned. That is the power of being chosen and being refined. You don't react from wounds anymore. You respond from wisdom. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply expressing the fullness of who God made you to be. The truth is, chosen one, the world never understood your pain because it was never meant to. Your process was private for a divine reason. God had to isolate you from the noise of public opinion so he could sanctify you in silence. There were things in your character, in your heart, in your vision that needed purification. And had you been validated too soon, you would have been trapped in a false version of success that lacked depth. But now you are prepared. You are whole. You are not just free from what hurt you. You are filled with what heals others. Your presence now carries frequency. Not everyone will be able to handle it. Not everyone will know how to stand near someone who has been kissed by fire and lived. But that's not your burden. That's not your assignment. You were never called to be palatable. You were called to be powerful. And now that the source of your power is rooted in what God did for you deeply, intimately, undeniably, there is nothing that can pull you back into the void you've escaped from. And it's important to acknowledge not everyone who walked with you in the pain will walk with you in the joy. Some were assigned to your wounds, not your wonders. Some were familiar with your brokenness, but will not recognize your boldness. Don't mourn their absence. Honor their season and release them. Because what God is doing next requires room. And that room is being made right now through detachment, divine disconnection, and spiritual clarity. You're not who you were. And that's not something to grieve. It's something to celebrate. The people who try to remind you of your past are speaking to someone who no longer exists. Their version of you is archived. What they remember is no longer relevant. God has reset the story, and the new version of you carries wisdom, not wounds, power, not pain, grace, not guilt. This is more than elevation, it's redefined. The blueprint of your life has changed. The road you walk now was paved with your persistence, and because of that, what used to trigger you now teaches you. What used to hold you back now propels you forward. What used to break you now builds you. And all of this is happening because God decided it was time. Time for your soul to rest. Time for your purpose to speak. Time for your spirit to rise. Time for your vision to manifest. Time for your harvest to come in. You didn't miss your moment. You became it. And because you became it, the world is now responding to your truth, not your trauma. That's why everything feels different. That's why old spaces feel tight. That's why new doors are opening before you even knock. It's not magic, it's alignment. God has orchestrated your return, not to the person you were, but to the person you were always meant to become. And now you're no longer building from fear. You're building from fire. You're no longer surviving to prove a point. You're thriving to fulfill a purpose. That shift is permanent. That breakthrough is sealed. That authority is earned. What's beautiful is how subtle the change is. You didn't wake up with fireworks. You woke up with peace. You didn't need applause to feel worthy. You just breathed deeper, smiled wider, and knew without question, something is different. Something is finished. Something has begun. And that knowing, that inner confirmation, is God whispering, it's done. You will never again have to convince yourself to keep going. The pull of your purpose will lead you now. Your decisions are no longer fear-based. Your boundaries are no longer guilt-ridden. You're not trying to be loved. You're living in the overflow of divine love. And from this place, everything grows, everything flows, everything aligns. There is no need to revisit the pain for closure. It has already been closed. There's no need to reopen wounds for understanding. They've already been healed. There's no need to search for answers in the places that broke you. What you need now is ahead, not behind. God has made it clear. Your future does not resemble your past, and it never will again. Because the test is over. The trial is done. The breakthrough is here. And you are not just walking in freedom. You are becoming a beacon of it for others. You will speak and chains will break. You will move and doors will open. You will rest and still receive. That's the new rhythm. That's the new reality. That's what happens when God says, congratulations. What is unfolding around you now is not accidental. It is not luck. It is the orchestration of God fulfilling what he promised you even before you understood what you were being prepared for. this release, this elevation, this divine shift. It has been in motion for far longer than you realized. But now that your heart is ready and your soul is steady, it is arriving quickly, gracefully, and completely. The version of you that is emerging was always meant to be here. The strength you now carry didn't come from applause. It came from silence, from unseen tears, from moments where you had no choice but to stand when it would have been easier to collapse. And now that your foundation has been solidified by those invisible victories, your future is built on something that will not shake. There will be people who try to reconnect with the older version of you, not because they miss you, but because they feel the power of your peace and are curious about how you got there. But they didn't walk through the fire with you. They didn't feel the heat that forged your transformation. They don't know the price of your peace. And for that reason, you owe them nothing but silent blessings from a distance. You are being given something that can't be taken. Spiritual rest. That deep, unshakable rest that only comes from knowing your war is over. You have permission to breathe, to exist, to thrive, to no longer apologize for how brightly you shine. That is what this part of your journey is about. Freedom without fear of consequence, joy without fear of interruption, abundance without fear of it disappearing. The people who once doubted you will be silenced by your stillness, not by arguments, not by revenge, but by your peace. Because when God settles something in your life, no one can unsettle it. When God ends a chapter, no one can rewrite it. And when God blesses you, it's not temporary. It's rooted. It's real. It's sealed. You will begin to notice small miracles manifesting in everyday moments, conversations aligning, opportunities unfolding, peace arriving without explanation. That is the evidence that you are living in divine momentum. And the beauty is, you won't have to chase any of it, because what is for you will find you quickly, consistently, and supernaturally. There's a softness returning to your soul. You're not guarded the way you used to be, not because you're naive, but because you've become so grounded in who you are that you don't need to protect what was never under threat. You've learned that what is truly meant for you will never be forced. And so you let go. And the letting go has made space for the flood of favor now heading your way. Your life is no longer reacting to external chaos. It is responding to internal clarity. You don't have to explain why you're happy. You don't have to justify why you're choosing peace. You don't have to give anyone access to the new you just because they knew the old one. This season requires protection of your time, your heart, your voice, your energy. Because what is birthing in you now is precious. There is an echo in the spiritual realm right now with your name on it. A confirmation, a celebration, a divine chorus singing over you. Well done. Not for being perfect, but for staying, for choosing to trust when nothing made sense, for allowing God to finish what He started. You didn't rush the process. You surrendered to it. And that's why the outcome is pure. You will look back at this time as the turning point, the moment when things finally stopped repeating, the moment when the same lesson stopped showing up in different clothes, the moment you stopped giving your power to the past and started anchoring yourself in the present. This is your moment of spiritual maturity. And from this space, you can receive everything without resistance. God has cleared your path, not just externally, but internally. He's removed the guilt that used to trip you, the shame that used to slow you, the fear that used to freeze you. Now you are walking freely, lightly, authentically, and the world will notice, because true freedom leaves a scent. It leaves a trail of grace, and people will be drawn to the fragrance of someone who has been set free by God Himself. Everything that once felt stuck is beginning to move. Everything that once felt dry is beginning to flow. Not because you changed everything, but because you changed internally. Your agreement with struggle has been broken. Your relationship with chaos has been severed. You are no longer a magnet for confusion. You are now a mirror for God's peace. And everything that enters your space must reflect that peace, or be removed by divine force. That's why things that used to feel normal now feel heavy. That's why relationships that once seemed comfortable now feel misaligned. It's not because you've changed in a bad way. It's because you've outgrown the energetic environments that were tied to your wounded self. You've expanded, you've ascended, and you can no longer breathe in places designed for the version of you that no longer exists. And it's okay to outgrow without guilt. It's okay to move forward without explanation. God isn't asking you to make everyone understand. He's asking you to move with Him, to flow with the favor He's releasing, to walk with the wind that now surrounds your life. That divine wind will open doors without keys. It will part waters without effort. It will deliver blessings without striving. This is the start of your return to joy. Not temporary happiness, but soul-level joy. The kind that doesn't need proof. The kind that flows even when things are quiet. That joy is your inheritance now. It's the evidence that you've made it. And you'll never have to experience what you went through to find it ever again. You've walked through the valley and emerged not with scars, but with sacred strength. What was meant to destroy you became the very thing God used to define you. And now, chosen one, the spiritual laws have shifted in your favor. The heavens have recorded your endurance, and the reward is no longer pending. It is present, it is real, and it's unfolding moment by moment, not in chaos, but in complete divine order. You will notice how your mind begins to rest in a new way. No more rehearsing old conversations. No more planning how to defend your peace. No more tensing your body in anticipation of attack. The nervous system that was once shaped by survival is being rewired by safety. You are safe now, not because your environment has changed, but because your inner agreement with danger has been broken. That's what God has done. He didn't just deliver you from the external enemy, He freed you from the inner war. This freedom is deeper than emotional relief. It is divine release. You don't owe your past an explanation. You don't owe those who misunderstood you a performance. All you owe now is your full presence to the future that's welcoming you. The future that doesn't resemble your history. The future that has space for your gifts, your softness, your fullness. And that future begins now. There is no lingering residue, no shadow trying to reclaim you. The old patterns have lost their pull. You're no longer triggered by what used to taunt you. You're no longer weakened by what used to control you. You've become immune to what used to infect your joy. That's what happens when God finalizes a season. He doesn't leave fragments. He closes it fully, completely, irreversibly. You are no longer waiting for confirmation. You are living in it, no longer questioning whether you're free. You are walking in it, no longer trying to convince yourself that things will change. You are surrounded by the change, and it's a beautiful one, a holy one, a change that reflects the work done in secret, the process undergone in silence, the prayers whispered in exhaustion. Every hidden seed has bloomed. Every buried hope has resurrected, and you are allowed to enjoy this. You are allowed to live without bracing for loss. You are allowed to feel joy without waiting for the pain to return. You are allowed to laugh again fully, loudly, without fear. You are allowed to trust the good that's happening because this good is God-given. And what God gives, He sustains. For too long, your peace felt rented, conditional, as if at any moment it could be revoked. But now your peace is permanent. It doesn't depend on outcomes. It doesn't depend on people. It doesn't depend on the world. It depends only on the presence of God. And He is not going anywhere. His presence is the new atmosphere around you. That's why everything feels clearer. That's why your spirit feels lighter. That's why you feel whole. The lesson has been learned. The pattern has ended. The release is real. This is your new beginning. And it isn't fragile. It's firm. It's anchored. It's protected by divine decree. And you'll never go back. Not mentally, not spiritually, not emotionally. You've crossed over into permanent deliverance. Not the kind you have to fight to keep, but the kind that flows because it was always yours.